Hey guys, what is up, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube out there? It's your boy, Brendan Esguerra, and sorry if I stole Boogie2988's, shtick. I mean, I can never be Boogie2988 or Francis. I mean, seriously. Sorry. I'm sorry for my terrible Francis impression. I'm actually kind of terrible at impersonating channeling my inner Francis. But anyway, back on topic. Since Halloween is on its way, and I thought it would be a good time to do judging by two particular YouTube shorts. Hold on. Sorry. Two particular YouTube shorts. Remember this? Did you miss me? Sorry, did you miss me? And this. Kidding. Didn't mean to scare you. I mean, it is Halloween it's not really Halloween yet, but it's almost Halloween. And I'm probably guessing, yep, this is my official announcement for my Goosebumps fan series. And the reason why, I'm making this is because, I'm actually making a Goosebumps fan series is because my Goosebumps fan series is actually going to be more kid-friendly than the Goosebumps Disney Plus TV show. I mean, because even though it's on Disney Plus, despite the fact that it's on Disney Plus, don't let that, bullcrap fool you, because, the Goosebumps Disney Plus series is not kid-friendly. Because when I watched the first episode, Say Cheese and Die, it literally had adult themes in it, like humping, which is very inappropriate, as well as, of course, references to porn, when James was talking about Isaiah's costume. Of course, Isaiah's costume has got to be Thor, and despite the fact that James, looks like he's wearing a Catwoman costume, well, because James is a boy, of course, it can't be Catwoman. Of course it's Cat Noir, from Ladybug and Cat Noir. It's gotta be Cat Noir from Miraculous, since ironically Miraculous is also on Disney Plus, and it's kinda owned by Disney. And also, not only that, when Nathan Bratt was moving into Harold Biddle's house, when he was trying to open the basement door, when he hurt himself, he said, "Son of a bitch." Yep, you heard me. He said the B word, which is, of course, a big no-no with the 1995 Goosebumps TV show. I mean, can you imagine the kids in, like, a Goosebumps book or in the old Goosebumps TV show saying the B word, or, throwing F-bombs or A-bombs or giving each other the middle finger like that? I mean, the closest to that, would probably be the Haunting Hour episode, The Nightmare Inn, where there was a scene where Caleb briefly says hell. So of course, for all things considered, there was swearing before the Goosebumps Disney Plus TV show. Because in R.L. Stine's The Haunting Hour, Caleb actually said hell. Which is, okay, maybe it's not a bad word, but it's considered taboo for when it comes to children's television. Very few, kids' cartoons nowadays, get away with dropping the H-bomb. And of course, and I think it's also said in Creature Feature, but anyway, back on topic, and to make a long story short, and not only that, not only Nathan Bratt said son of a bitch, but it also hurt like a son of a bitch. He even bled. And I'm not kidding, he was bleeding with red blood. And that goes against the rules of Goosebumps. Specifically, the art of Tim Jacobus, specifically no red blood. Because the Goosebumps books have to be, in terms of the covers, of course they have to be scary, but not too scary, as it's like a blend of, frightening imagery with childlike wonder, and of course, something very spooky and haunting, but also fairy tale-esque and fun, even whimsical, if you will. Something not ultra-realistic, so it won't frighten. So it could spook children a bit, but without, traumatizing them. In fact, when you look at the old Goosebumps book covers, when you look at the old Goosebumps book covers from the 90s, it's like as if the 90s exploded on 1950s B-movies, like as if, old school Saturday morning cartoons meets cheesy monster movies. Like those old horror movies from the 1950s and 60s. They're all cheesy and low budget, as well as, those like retro cartoons, but not like the black and white cartoons, but the 90s cartoons, but the 90s Saturday morning cartoons. In fact, the only one that I could think of is probably the 90s Spider-Man cartoon, because it has 1950s B-movie horror elements. Well, cheesy monster movie elements, but in the form of a 90s Saturday morning superhero cartoon. Definitely a far cry from Batman the Animated Series, which is, kind of a gothic horror, whereas Spider-Man was more of a cheesy monster movie. Spider-Man bright, colorful, cheesy, and fun, while Batman dark, goth, haunting, and of course fear and nightmare fuel and creepypasta type stuff. Well, kind of creepypasta, since, Jeff the Killer looks very similar to the Heath Ledger Joker. And I guess Jane the Killer could kind of be his Harley Quinn. And also Slender Man is kind of like that no-face Batman villain that's like plant-based. That's literally Slender Man. But anyway, back on topic, okay? Now where was I? Oh yeah, Goosebumps. Okay, so, of course, and also for the old Goosebumps book covers, yeah, like at 1990s Saturday morning cartoons and children's shows, mashed up together with, you know, like old, like 1950s, like horror movies, like the cheesy, low-budget 1950s and 60s horror movies. You know, B-movies. As well as, of course, Scooby-Doo, since Goosebumps and Scooby-Doo kind of go hand in hand, as Goosebumps is like Generation X's / Generation Z's equivalent to Scooby-Doo, Where Are You? While I'd probably compare the Goosebumps Disney Plus series, of course, to Velma. Okay, anyway, back on topic, of course. And also, another thing about the Goosebumps book covers and the monster designs, of course, they're not ultra-realistic, but instead cartoonish, bizarre, flashy, wacky, and over-the-top. Manic and over-the-top. And of course, some other themes include like Converse shoes, warped, distorted perspectives, kind of like this, and checkerboard pattern like floors and walls and other surfaces. And of course, bright and loud, vibrant colors. Even though Goosebumps is actually live action, the original 1995 TV series. And also, here is like my props for it. Well, one of my props, of course, this is Slappy. Yeah, this is Slappy. Well, and the reason why he looks like this is because he's supposed to be based on the Goosebumps movie version of the character, as you can kind of see the brown stuff on his nose and chin are supposed to be the chips on his nose, on the cracks on his nose and chin, exposing his wooden understructure. And yes, there's the red bow tie and the gray formal suit. The reason why he looks like utter crap and bullshit is because I'm not done with him yet. Of course I know he looks shitty and like garbage. It's because I'm not even done yet. I have to add in the final details like the clear nail polish, and I also have to fix his eyes so they don't look that weird, and his eyebrows, and a little bit of the detail in the nose and chin and the bow tie. And I have to add in the clear nail polish, and I also, and for the final touch, I'm going to add his corsage, which I'm actually going to make with a real, fake, like flowers that I actually bought while I was after I just went shopping at Dollar Tree, because of course I needed those flowers for my Slappy the dummy, but this isn't the only Slappy. I also have this one, which is supposed to be based on the old classic OG Fox Kids 90s Goosebumps TV show version of Slappy. I know he's also complete and utter dog dookie. It's because I'm not done with him yet too. I haven't added the green eyes, the pupils, and I need to fix the lips, and I also need to fix the lips on this version of Slappy, which I'm actually going to use in my Goosebumps fan series. And I also need to add the clear nail polish And of course, the corsage. And I also need to make the those little cards with the weird words, which are let's see, Carew, Marie, O'Donnelloma, Molyneux, Carano. Ha! Ha! Ah! Kidding. I mean, they're not really alive, but in the Goosebumps episode, in my Goosebumps fan series, they will be. And not only that, while I was also shopping at Ross, I found this plastic skeleton dude. I mean, I know he's like, you know, like a weird, like sci-fi alien-looking skeleton because of the head and the eyes and he has like 4 fingers instead of 5, and but he's got 5 toes, and yet he must be like a gray alien skeleton. I mean, I don't mean he's gray because he's white like a normal human skeleton, but I actually mean like a gray alien. You know, like the classic, stereotypical UFO, Roswell, Area 51 type aliens with the big eyes. Yeah. And there's also this guy, which is, of course, this regular human skeleton. I know he's small and he's like almost like about the same exact size as, you know, Slappy. I mean, they're almost the same size, it's just the skeleton dude is more taller. And I know, well, honestly, I don't like the weird, like, futuristic, like, robot-looking, like, metallic colors. I want him to be like a regular, like, dirty, white, graveyard-type skeleton. And I also kind of want to change the hands with more, you know, proper skeleton-like hands, like he's, like, about to grab me. But except he can't, he's stuck in this, like, almost, I don't know, stigmata or palm reading pose. And plus, I'm also thinking about, you know, giving him some wires so I could move him, you know, like a puppet. You know, just like Slappy, except Slappy is articulated, so I can easily make him move around, you know, through stop motion. But when Slappy talks, of course I'm going to press the button on the back of his head. Well, actually, and it's actually because, well, as it turns out, surprise, surprise, my custom Slappy the dummies are actually made from, you know, Benson the doll from Toy Story 4, who is obviously based on Slappy. I mean, Benson is literally Slappy from Goosebumps, which is ironic because see? This is the animation model of Benson from Toy Story 4, and this is actually the doll. Yeah. Yeah, this used to be Benson, but not anymore. He's Slappy the frickin' dummy from R.L. Stine's frickin' Goosebumps. Here he is. Before, I mean, he was, you know, Benson from, you know, Toy Story 4, but now he's Slappy from Goosebumps. Specifically, the Goosebumps movies, both Goosebumps both the first Goosebumps movie from 2015 and Goosebumps 2 Haunted Halloween. Slappy. Yep. This is what I'm going for. Slappy the dummy from the Goosebumps movies. And you could kind of see it. I mean, I know it's a little sloppy, get it? Because it sounds like Slappy, like the Shingles parody version of Slappy, but let's not get into that. So of course I'm gonna fix him. Of course I'm gonna finish him to make him look exactly like him. And I'm also gonna fix the 90s Slappy from the original Fox Kids Goosebumps TV show version, and I'm gonna make this, of course, look more like this. You know, look more accurate to how he looked in the TV show, but I'm actually going to be using this one because my Goosebumps fan series is, of course, going to be a modern reboot of the original 1995 Goosebumps series. And, of course, or should I say, of course, you know, get it? Actually, it's more of a Tales... Actually, the pun was a Tales from the Crypt thing, but still. But anyway, okay, and, well, about, you know, my Goosebumps fan series, well, it is, of course, going to be more kid-friendly than the Goosebumps Disney Plus TV show, but not in a way to, like, alienate all of the kids of the 90s who grew up with the 1995 Goosebumps TV show on Fox Kids, who are, like, all in their 30s and 40s now. Of course, while it is going to be more kid-friendly than the Goosebumps Disney Plus series, however, it's actually going to be more darker and scarier than the two Goosebumps movies. But even though my Goosebumps fan series is going to be much more darker and scarier than the two Goosebumps movies, it's still a pretty kid-friendly series, as it's going to be more kid-friendly, as it's going to be much more darker and scarier than the two Goosebumps movies, but it's more kid-friendly than the Goosebumps Disney Plus TV show, as there's actually going to be a balance between both the silliness aspect of the series and of course the scare factor. And by that, instead of like full-blown horror, adult jokes, sexual innuendo, swearing, and I also forgot another thing about the Goosebumps Disney Plus series, incest, which is something that's totally not allowed in Goosebumps because it's a messed up issue, and kids should never know about that. And plus, that's adult horror. I mean, haven't you seen the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Hills Have Eyes, both the old ones and new ones, and of course, the Wrong Turn series? And of course, the story of Onion Town, but I don't want to talk about that. So anyway, of course, oh, and of course some swearing too, but my Goosebumps fan series will have none of that. Instead, it's gonna be, of course, scary, but not too scary of a vibe, with some comedy here and there for the kids. I mean, even though it's going to be much more darker and scarier than the two Goosebumps movies, the humor is actually going to be funnier. You know, to relieve the tension, and it's going to focus more on the horror, fantasy, and even sci-fi, and of course, in case of Attack of the Mutant and Robbie Schwartz versus Dr. Maniac, superhero action adventure type stuff. Or in the case of The Perfect School, like action, just straight up action. You know, because it's like a mix between the Stepford Wives and the Terminator. Especially considering that that the main character's name is Brian O'Connor. Kind of like Sarah Connor and John Connor, in the fact that the perfect ones are supposed to be robots. Okay, in the Goosebumps books, they're robots, kind of like the Terminator, but in the Goosebumps TV show, they're actually like brainwashed, organic, genetically engineered clones. And of course there's going to be a balance between all that, as well as of course more emphasis on the fantasy, or should I say horror, but kid-friendly horror, the kind that's scary but not too scary of a vibe. In fact, of course, it's going to have elements of the supernatural and things that might be considered spooky, like you would normally find in Goosebumps, but of course it will be still counterbalanced with lighthearted themes and of course humor. So the tone I'm going for is like a slightly edgier version of a Disney of an old 90s or 2000s Disney Channel or Disney XD sitcom, or a Disney Channel original movie. You know, just edgier but still kid friendly. And yes, it'll be an anthology, and it's just, I'm not going to be working on it yet because I still have to do, Slappy along with his 1995, along with his old 90s counterpart, the Goosebumps TV show, as I'm also going to do a custom Goosebumps Disney Plus version of Slappy, just for fun, complete with the teeny weeny little top hat that he has in the show, and of course, the classic Goosebumps book cover version, but accurate to the book cover, not the way Slappy was described in the books, which I guess, the Disney Plus series nailed, but the only thing I don't like, it's not kid-friendly, as my Goosebumps Disney Plus, my Goosebumps fan series will of course be, more tween kid-friendly, as while the content is somewhat similar to the Disney Plus series, it's just, the content is going to be toned down in order to make it suitable for children and preteens. And yes, they're going to be marked as, marked for kids, like on YouTube Kids, but I'm going to avoid all of the, the more disturbing stuff, and censor that so, it could be COBA approved, because after all, it's Goosebumps, R.L. Stine's, pretty much successful children's horror franchise. And besides, with the Goosebumps Disney Plus series being for adults, it's obviously going to ruin, revenue and, book sales, because the modern Goosebumps books, like Slappy World or even House of Shivers, are still pretty much aimed at kids. And then there's some Goosebumps merchandise that is also aimed at kids, as well as some new Halloween costumes, like a new Slappy the Dummy mask, complete with a jaw that actually moves, sort of like the Animotion masks, but in a more simplified way with less fancy, mechanical parts. And it's not very well detailed, and plus it's got yellow eyes. And it doesn't even have the chip on his nose and chin, or even on the lips. And of course, and I also gotta, try to figure out which Goosebumps books or episodes, I wanna adapt, or what I couldn't adapt. But however, unlike the original 1995 Goosebumps TV show, I'm actually gonna adapt Night of the Living Dummy, and no, I don't mean Night of the Living Dummy Part 2. I actually mean the first Night of the Living Dummy, the very first Night of the Living Dummy. It's just, Mr. Wood is the antagonist of the book and not Slappy, even though Slappy is depicted on the cover. Of course, I'm actually going to be ordering a 5th Toy Story Benson doll, but I'm not going to customize it. I'm just going to leave him as is, as I'm actually going to be, using him as Mr. Wood. Yeah, Mr. Wood. Because Mr. Wood, and Slappy are supposed to be kind of like identical twins, except they look a little different from each other. So, of course, you could easily tell Slappy and Mr. Wood, played by Benson from Toy Story 4, apart. And also, what Slappy's voice is going to sound like, well, I'm actually going to be going for a style reminiscent of Jack Black, Mick Wingert, and Avery Jones, from the Goosebumps movies, because this is literally the Goosebumps movie version. I mean, this is literally the movie iteration of the character. It's just I gotta practice, Jack Black's voice is Slappy. And not only that, Night of the Living Dummy, the first Night of the Living Dummy will be the first episode, the very first episode. And yes, there will be some other Goosebumps episodes that are straight up adapted from the books, including the Haunted Mask. It's just I gotta order the Haunted Mask, the one Carly Beth wore in the 90s TV show. But not the actual one. It's just, the exact replica from Trick or Treat Studios. And of course, I'm probably gonna get my cousin Sam or my niece Bella to play as Carly Beth. But Sam is much more smaller, so she could easily qualify as Carly Beth, because she is small and kind of pixie-ish, even though I don't really see her as Carly Beth. I kind of see her more as a Filipino Eloise, and by that I mean Kay Thompson's Eloise. It's just she has to have the red hair bow, the white dress with the black skirt, the Mary Jane shoes, and she has to dye her hair blonde like Eloise and put on red lipstick like Eloise. Well, specifically the live-action movie version of Eloise. And also for, the Haunted Mask, I also got to order the other Haunted Mask from the Haunted Mask 2, the one that Steve wears. The old man mask, and I'm thinking about probably having my nephew Izzy play Steve, or maybe he can't, or if he can, I could probably cast my cousin Christopher, since he's younger than me, so I easily could see him as Steve, and I would probably have to play Chuck, but I would also have to play another main character in my Goosebumps fan series, who is of course an original character, but still. But I'm also going to be adapting the other various works of R.L. Stine, including The Haunting Hour, Mostly Ghostly, Stine Tinglers, or anything, Goosebumpy, even Zombie Town. Well, in a way, as well as, of course, anything, horror-themed from Disney, because Disney owns Goosebumps now, so of course it's gotta, have a little bit of a Disney feel. So there's the Haunted Mansion from Disney, The Nightmare Before Christmas, Halloween Town, Under Wraps, Phantom of the Megaplex, which would probably be kind of a sequel or spin-off to the Phantom of the Auditorium. But this time, the Phantom of the Megaplex in my Goosebumps fan series is actually going to be Brian Colson, who was the Phantom of the Auditorium, who's now become the Phantom of the Megaplex. Because as it turns out, Brian also had a part in the Goosebumps fan series. Brian also worked at the Megaplex, well, as a part-timer, except for the part that he was actually younger than the kid who worked there, who was 17. While Brian Colson was 12. And of course, there's also going to be a red herring character similar to Zeke, who was the red herring. Well, Scary Terry the Goth Girl is, well, kind of like the female, girl version of Zeke, where she is blamed for being the Phantom of the Megaplex. And not only that, the 17-year-old kid ends up making the joke, "Oh, Phantom, I owe you, already owe me $10, I hope you starve." But instead of lunch money, it's, of course, a jumbo tub of popcorn, a king-size candy bar, and a diet, and a extra large Diet Coke or Mountain Dew, And of course, and also, I'm gonna really work on it and stuff, start writing the scripts and everything and stuff like that. And I also got to order the other props, the actual Goosebumps props, costumes, wigs, animatronics, makeup, whatever. I don't give a fucking shit. And of course, and I also got to make the monster blood, which is actually going to be, the slime that you would normally get at the dollar store. I just got to mix them all together. And I also have to get, a whole bunch of bright green paint to make it look like monster blood. along with the blob that ate everyone, and the jam from the horror at Camp Jelly Jam, and there's the blue monster blood, and of course the purple peanut butter, which I'm actually going to make with real peanut butter to make it actually smell like peanut butter. Oh, and not only that, just for fun, I'm actually making my own custom Goosebumps books. I mean, yes, they're still under R.L. Stine's name, but I'm actually one of his, ghostwriters. Well, his unofficial ghostwriters. And this is a fan-made creation. And, of course, I even added the Boo Dude Goosebumps is on Disney Plus and Hulu to kind of promote the Disney Plus series, but I probably wouldn't recommend it to a kid since it's not very kid-friendly. But still, I have to advertise it, though, since there are kids that are interested. And not only that, to make it a little different from the original Goosebumps TV series, it's actually, even though it's going to be an anthology, it's actually going to have a shared universe, meaning all of the Goosebumps stories take place in the same universe, meaning the Goosebumps monsters all exist in each other, a la the Marvel Cinematic Universe, or the DC Extended Universe, depending on your preference. And not only that, even though it's going to be, more kid-friendly, it's still going to be dark and scary nonetheless. It's just there's going to be a balance between the humor and horror, but not only that, it's also going to have some nostalgia. In this case, 90s nostalgia. A whole bunch of references to a bunch of things that make Goosebumps, that being, of course, stuff from the 90s. In this case, Converse shoes, backwards baseball caps, as well as, of course, Pogs, Tiger electronic handhelds, and what other stuff is from the 90s? As well as, of course, cell phones in the 90s that most certainly weren't smart, but back in the 90s people still were. Oh, and of course, grunge, which is of course, a subculture in the 90s. In fact, I'm thinking about in one of the episodes, one of the characters I'm playing is actually wearing an outfit that's obviously very grunge. Well, 90s, because Goosebumps. And it probably may or may not resemble Harold Biddle, a little bit. It's just I gotta find a baggy plaid flannel shirt, the most 90s t-shirt ever, some baggy jeans with of course holes on the knees, exposing the knees, like how a lot of grunge kids in the 90s wear them, Converse sneakers, and even to make it a little different from old Harold Biddle, a backwards baseball cap. But however, of course, he's not going to be wearing that all the time, only in that one episode, as he changes his outfit because he was actually kind of bullied and made fun of because his outfit is outdated. So of course he just changes his outfit to a more modern day outfit, like 2020s. Albeit with a touch of like 2000s, because I'm a 2000s kid, but I actually did watch Goosebumps. Well, through reruns on like Fox Kids and Fox Family, and I also had 2 Goosebumps VHSs. Night of the Living Dummy Part 3 and Welcome to Dead House. It's just I didn't watch Night of the Living Dummy Part 3 because, you know, Slappy in the 1995 Goosebumps TV show used to scare me, but I actually don't find the movie version scary that much, while the Disney Plus version is somewhere in between, but still. And of course, but not only that, I'm also going to make some of my own original Goosebumps episodes that are not based on any actual stories from R.L. Stine. Some of them are my own original ideas. Some of them are actually from other children's horror novels, as well as other retro horror television and films written for, other retro horror television and film programs written for children. But not Are You Afraid of the Dark, because that's Nickelodeon, while Goosebumps, since it's airing on Disney Plus, is Disney. As well as a little bit of references to Big Bad Beetleborgs, because there was actually an episode with a Goosebumps homage, and plus, the Hillhurst monsters alone look very similar to the Goosebumps monsters, and plus, Jeff Goldblum, who played Count Fangula, also played Count Dracula in the Goosebumps Escape from Horrorland computer game. Oh, and I'm also going to adapt The Nightmare Room too. Oh, and of course, to wrap things up, my Goosebumps fan series will have the original 1995 Goosebumps TV show theme song made by composer Jack Lenz, but you know, due to copyright issues, I can't use the original one, so I'm actually going to use a sound-alike, which I will give you a little hint of it. See? Goosebumps. It's just I'm going to have to edit it a bit to be like TV show intro length, and I'm also going to add the dog bark as well as the ending note, which is yeah, that. And I'm also going to add, of course, the scary voice saying, "Goosebumps, viewer beware, you're in for a scare," along with the evil laugh that finishes the intro. Oh yeah, and I guess that's pretty much it. Okay, so... Oh, and of course, for the intro, of course, it's not exactly like a 100% recreation of the 1995 Goosebumps TV show, but like my own version of it, using a mix of various different footage through editing and all that, you know, that makes it similar to the original 1995 intro, but with its own unique twist, complete with, of course, Goosebumps written in green slime. You know, the classic Goosebumps logo. And of course, instead of the TV-14 rating that the Disney Plus series has, it's going to have a TV Y7 SV rating. And not only that, it's going to even have the classic disclaimer that begins at the beginning of the episodes, which is Goosebumps is rated TV Y7 SV. Some scenes may be too spooky for children under 7, but I'm also going to add, I strongly suggest watching together, you know, as a family, or watching together with a friend or a parent or an older sibling or someone you love, you know, so you won't get scared that much. You know, because of course, you know, I'm trying to make my Goosebumps fan series, of course, scary, but still kid-friendly, so it won't traumatize children. So it could scare them, but in a way that won't traumatize them. Okay? And I'm also going to add a disclaimer that it's, of course, a non-profit fan project made all in good fun and made for both kids, and I mean for both, and made for kids, and I mean kids of Generation Alpha, because it's aimed at both kids of Generation Alpha, as well as, of course, kids of the 90s who love the old Goosebumps TV show, who are like in their 30s and 40s now. So it's directed equally towards both those generations of kids. It's not going to be that complicated. And I'm also going to add that, of course, I do not own Goosebumps. Goosebumps is a registered trademark of Parachute Press, Scholastic, R.L. Stine, Fox Kids, 20th Century Fox, Sony Pictures Animation, and Disney. And of course, Walt Disney Pictures, because they own Goosebumps now. And of course, so I'm going to pretty much wrap it up right now because it's already too long, but I will make like a production diary slash behind the scenes documentary slash vlog about my Goosebumps fan series and the production of it. Besides, I can't even really make this series yet. I have to get a camera, and I also have to get my computer so I can start editing and all that, you know. The whole enchilada. So of course I will make the first entry in my Goosebumps fan series, Production Die. Production Diary. See what I did there? Diary. Because, it's a horror themed pun, and of course, because it's Goosebumps. And I will post the first update on it, which I will be posting real soon, cousins. See what I did there? That was, Zane's final quote. That was how, Zane from Night of the Living Dummy 3 finishes the episode. And when he says that line, his head spun around. Because he's still part dummy. Okay. But anyway, so stay tuned for the first production diary for my Goosebumps fan series. So until then, have an awesome day. Have an awesome Halloween, and as R.L. Stine would say, viewers beware, you're in for a scare. Have an awesome Halloween, and I hope you like it. Peace out. Peace out, home dogs.